structure called the corpus luteum, and it's going to produce progesterone. So if a female does not make luteinizing hormone, she will not ovulate, she will not produce progesterone. And this can cause things like follicle cysts because of those problems. It can cause fertility issues, all that kind of fun stuff. Because obviously, if you don't ovulate, you can't get pregnant because there's no egg that's been released. So this is one of those ones that a lot of your fertility tests check for. So if you're trying to get pregnant, they do make an ovulation tester. And what that ovulation tester does is it looks for luteinizing hormone. So if you don't have it, you don't have it. And then you do, you just ovulated. You got 24 hours, go with God. Good luck. Have some babies, that kind of scenario. So until this hits, we haven't ovulated yet. So as long as luteinizing hormone is the dominant hormone, it's going to keep stimulating that corpus luteum to produce progesterone, preparing the uterus for implantation and hopefully a pregnancy. If we don't have a pregnancy, luteinizing hormone will drop off and then follicle stimulating comes back. So again, those female hormones tag team. You get one that's the dominant or the other. They're never going to be dominant at the same time. They have to take turns. So it's going to help us on the second half. And we should see this hit and have ovulation roughly day 14 of the female cycle, give or take, depending on you and your uterus and ovaries and all that junk. Interstitial cell stimulating hormone, ICSH, also known as ICSH-LH, and in your book it's just called LH. It is chemically identical to luteinizing hormone. The difference is some books call it interstitial cell stimulating hormone because at some point they're like, you know what? Boys don't have a corpus luteum, so why are we calling it luteinizing hormone when it can't target the corpus luteum? It targets interstitial cells, so let's call it that. And other people are like, it's chemically the exact same thing. If you give LH to a girl, she makes progesterone. If you give LH to a boy, he makes testosterone. Chemical, same thing. Let's just call it the same thing. So your book goes with it's chemically the same thing. Let's just call it luteinizing hormone. Previous editions called it interstitial cell stimulating hormone. So even your author couldn't decide what to call it. I call it this just so you'll know it's the boy version versus the girl version. So different targets. So interstitial cells are the cells between the seminiferous tubules, acting kind of like packing peanuts. And this is where the testosterone is going to come from in the male. So the more ICSH a male produces, the more testosterone he produces. So with these hormones, if you don't have enough of follicle stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, interstitial cell stimulating hormone, early on, it just means you haven't reached sexual maturity. You won't find these hormones in a first grader. This is why, again, 7-year-olds have all the same stuff. It doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, your skeleton looks the same, your muscles look the same, because you haven't been exposed to those hormones that will make you into the physiological functioning male or the physiological functioning female. Once you hit puberty, you've made enough of these to kickstart your ovaries or kickstart your gonads. Now, once you've gone through puberty, if you're an adult, if you don't make enough of these, you will not have functional gametes. So if a female does not make enough follicle stimulating hormone, she'll have low levels of estrogen. She won't be able to ovulate. If she doesn't make luteinizing hormone, she won't be able to ovulate, so she won't be able to produce progesterone. So there is a big interplay between a lot of different hormones when it comes to female reproductive systems and functionalities. One of the big issues, big conditions you'll find is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So that one is where the follicles form, but they don't rupture, so they become cysts. And then she can't get pregnant, and then she forms another follicle that doesn't rupture, so she can't get pregnant, and there's another cyst. So it used to be considered just a reproductive problem, because it's an issue of those interplay of 4 hormones, so the female can't get pregnant, or if she does get pregnant, she often has high chances of miscarriage because she doesn't make enough progesterone to keep her pregnancy going. What we have found is these female hormones not just screw up female parts, but they screw up everything else. Estrogen and insulin don't play well together. If you have too much insulin, you won't make enough estrogen, you won't ovulate, you can't get pregnant. Problems. So that's why some people who are really overweight, have diabetes type 2, have problems getting pregnant. Your estrogen can also interwork with your thyroid hormones. So they have now decided that condition has two forms, the insulin version where you will get diabetes and have problems with insulin, and the thyroid version where your insulin's okay, you don't get diabetes, but you have thyroid problems, you have fatty liver disease, and your huge issues. The more we learn about women, the more we suck. So complicated, okay? So a lot of interplay. With guys, don't have that big issue, okay? Because we have two different targets. So if the guy doesn't make enough follicle stimulating hormone, he would just have low sperm counts. If he doesn't make enough interstitial cell stimulating hormone, he just has low testosterone. So they are not going to relate to each other. So the amount of interstitial cell stimulating hormone does not affect his ability to make sperm. Follicle stimulating hormone does not affect his ability to make testosterone. So there's a complete division of gamete and hormone production, where in females, they're tied together. So if your eggs suck, your hormones suck, or vice versa. So you get a whole lot more issues with the girl side of things than the guy side of things. And again, this is what some of your birth control pills target. So if you have estrogen-based birth control pills, low estrogen, any of those guys, they give you this amount of estrogen that lets your brain think, oh, I've made enough, so I don't need to make follicle stimulating hormone. And if you don't make follicle stimulating hormone, you don't ovulate. So that's how it prevents you from having that pregnancy. It stops you from ovulating. The progesterone-based birth control pills says, hey, here's progesterone. And your brain's like, well, if I've got progesterone, that means I've already ovulated. I don't need to make follicle stimulating hormone. And you don't ovulate and you don't get pregnant. So those are the two main types of birth control, is estrogen-based or progesterone-based. And this is why if you miss a pill or two, your brain gets the real signals from your gonads like, oh man, we need to make something and release. So that's why you have to take it every single day. And then we've got the newer versions like Yaz and Biaz, which isn't those two hormones, but a completely different mechanism to trigger hypothalamus, and they're not making blah, blah, blah. Crazy. Sucks to be a girl, right? Yeah, it does. Can't even stand up to people. Other things coming from the anterior lobe, melanin stimulating hormone or melanocyte stimulating hormone, so MSH. In theory, it's going to stimulate your melanocytes. And if your melanocytes make more melanin, you're going to be darker. Now, in humans, we don't make a whole lot of this. We are losing the ability to actually make this hormone because we don't change color based on seasonality, right? It's not like, oh, it's summer, I better put my dark suit on. No. We are pretty much constant when it comes to our skin tone. So it is so low, we suspect it's no longer perceived as a hormone in the body. It's just used as a little neurotransmitter, a little pick-me-up for the brain. Now, in other mammals, it's actually very important. So if you have something like animals that live in the Arctic, like Arctic hares, Arctic foxes, they go white in the winter, they go brown in the summer. That's this hormone. So whenever you're exposed to sunlight, you make more MSH. So those animals would make more brown, and they turn brown for the summertime when it was all nice and sunny. When you get less light, you make less MSH, you turn white for the winter because it's really dark up in the northern areas in the wintertime. So that's how you'll have color changes in mammals based on the seasonality. This is how you'll actually have color changes in some of your birds and reptiles due to mating season, that kind of scenario. Now, we do still see some trace evidence that our brain responds like other mammal brains. If you expose a person to more sunlight, they will make more MSH. If you expose somebody to less sunlight or they wear sunglasses, they will make less MSH. So they have shown in different studies that people who wear sunglasses sunburn more severely because they don't make enough MSH to darken slightly to help prevent sunburn damage. So if you want to lessen a sunburn, don't wear sunglasses. It lets your brain know, hey, there's sun here, and I should make some of this color. They are over in Europe where they don't have better things to do with their life experimenting with this, because if we can make a pill that has large amounts of MSH in it, it would stimulate your melanocytes. You could take a pill and get a tan. And then, of course, that would save people if you want a tan instead of getting baked by the sun or tanning beds where you have cancer as a possibility. You can take a pill and be dark. Okay, so this isn't something we're experimenting over here because we've got better things to do with our lives. But over in Europe, this is something that you can look into. So there is some evidence that it works. And some people it works really well, and others they just get freckles. People are like, oh, we turned you Irish. I'm so sorry. Right? Just if they all connect, it eventually be a tan. Anybody ever watch Botched? Which is just fun because Why not watch people wasting their money and then wasting their money to fix the waste of money and that kind of stuff? But anywho, there was this one chick, which I think needs a psychologist, but that's my opinion. The first time she was on the season, she wanted to be the human Barbie. So she got all the augmentations and everything jobbed to look like Barbie and blonde and all that kind of fun stuff. And she's some person, I'm thinking of nice things to tell because it was like bimbo. So anyway, she's some chick from Europe, and she got into one of those studies where they were looking at MSH, her and her boyfriend, and they took pills and then went outside a whole lot. Her boyfriend got slightly darker. Her body really responded. So her blonde hair went brown, her skin went really dark, and then he invited her back because now she decided now that she was darker, she needed a nose like her sisters. And everyone was like, you did not become African because you got a tan. She's like, but I want to be like everybody else like me. I'm like, you're right. But anyway, she was trying to get her nose widened from being too small to being bigger because now she wanted to associate with what she looked like. And you're like, that's not how it works. You can't just take a pill and change your ethnicity. Your culture didn't change or anything like that. But again, European people, they're a little something. Netherlands, too much snow in those places. Okay, so some people really respond. They'll get a good, nice golden tan. Other people, they freckle until they stop taking the pills and then it fades again. So something they're working on if you want to waste your money on that. I guess it's cheaper than a boob job. That chick had issues. Look at that. There's a table. So as mentioned, those pituitary hormones are only released in response to the hypothalamus telling them what to do. That hypothalamus, again, like the mob boss, pituitary gland, like the person that carries out the orders. And there's a table like this in your book. So this is your regulatory hormone. This is the guy released by the hypothalamus. It will then cause pituitary to release its regulatory hormones. And then in turn, will target the organ to release their hormones. So if you have a problem with your thyroid hormones, it could be because your thyroid gland isn't working. It could be because your pituitary gland isn't working. It could be because your hypothalamus isn't working. So again, sometimes those really complex problems, a lot of times doctors, instead of trying to figure out which one of these isn't working properly, let's just give you the endpoint. So again, a lot of times if you have thyroid issues, thyroid hormone issues, instead of stimulating your pituitary gland, they're just going to go and give you the thyroid hormones. If you can't ovulate at a regular period, they're going to put you on birth control. Instead of worrying about, oh, let's give them more GnRH. Well, maybe that would work. Let's give them more follicle stimulating luteinizing hormone. That might work. Oh, or we could just give you the end product. Okay, so a lot of times when we look at therapies, whether we have problems with your thyroid or if you have problems releasing eggs or if you have low sperm counts in males, they usually don't target your hypothalamus or your pituitary. They'll just go straight and give you the testosterone. They'll just go straight and give you the estrogen or progesterone to fix those kind of issues. So these all interplay. This is why it's so complex sometimes to diagnose problems. It's like, I'm tired. What's wrong with me? Well, could be that guy. Could be that guy. Could be that guy. Could be something completely different. Okay, so a lot of interplays there. Things to remember, your posterior lobe, the neurohypophysis, it does not have any glandular tissue. It is not going to have epithelial tissue. It can't produce or make any secretion. Since it cannot make the hormones that it releases, technically it's not a true endocrine gland. Because to be an endocrine gland, you have to be a gland that makes and releases hormones. And this guy doesn't make them. It just holds them. It's just like your purse is not a bank. Even though your purse may have money in it, your purse does not make the money and store large amounts of the money. Your purse is just going to be able to give you cash if you get cash out of the bank and put it into your purse. So the posterior lobe is like the hypothalamus's purse. The hypothalamus makes the hormones. And it's the posterior lobe that will store them and release them as needed, but it doesn't make it itself. Okay? So not a true endocrine gland, because if you don't make it, you can't be a gland. Okay? So it releases hormones from the hypothalamus, just like your purse releases cash from the bank.
Posterior lobe of the pituitary.
Mm-hmm. So posterior lobe, our first hormone that it releases is antidiuretic hormone, ADH, also known as vasopressin. That's the drug form of it. Again, anti means without, against, and diuretic means PP. This is your anti-PP hormone. It stops you from peeing. It also is going to cause you to have higher blood pressure, which is where the term vasopressin comes from, vaso blood vessel, or specifically arteries, and pressure. Okay, so raises your blood pressure. So this one is one of those hormones they watch, especially during and after surgeries, because when you are in surgery, you want ADH. So even though you're capped, you don't produce a whole lot of urine and you don't have to change the bag very frequently. Obviously, after surgery, they want you to be able to pee, which is why if you've ever had surgery, you'll notice like the whole next day, you have to measure your pee, right? You have to pee in the measuring cup in your toilet instead of just out. And they're always, have you peed? Have you pooped? You're like, wow, you should at least say good morning first, something. But they're going to measure those. If your ADH is too high after surgeries, it will cause retention in the bladder, can cause problems if you don't process out that water like you're supposed to. So its target goes to the kidneys, and it says, hey man, don't make pee. So it's going to go to the kidneys and tell it to suck the fluid out of what would be urine. At this point, it's called filtrate because we're still tweaking with it. We're going to pull that fluid out of the filtrate and put it back into the bloodstream. So this oftentimes, of course, will raise blood pressure because the more fluid we have, the more volume we have, the more pressure we're going to have. So it does have effect of raising your blood pressure. So if you have too much ADH other than not urinating, you can have really, really high blood pressure problems. This is also one of the reasons why you'll see people who don't pee enough have high blood pressure. Ironically, truck drivers, long-haul truck drivers tend to have high blood pressure because they don't pee enough because they're going long distances and they don't want to carry a pee bottle with them or stop to go to the bathroom. So they'll end up with really, really high blood pressure because they have a backup in the system. So you gotta pee. This is why if you've watched the commercials with that weird bladder that wants to make you pee all the time, it's usually some lady on the bus and the bladder's like, let's go potty. You'll hear, do not take this if you have glaucoma. Why? Because if you have glaucoma, you already have pressure problems in your eye, backing up in the system is going to cause more problems. And of course, they tell you don't take this if you have high blood pressure, because if you don't pee, that fluid stays in your blood, raising your blood pressure. And if you have higher blood pressure, that's going to make your glaucoma even worse. So in case you've wondered, how come not peeing makes you have problems with glaucoma? Eyes, pee, different. It's all related. Backup in the system. Okay, so any backups can cause problems. So if you have high blood pressure, you have glaucoma, you're just going to have to pee a lot because that pill to make you not pee is going to make your glaucoma go worse. So it's like, you can pee all the time or you can go blind. I'd rather pee a lot. Yes, ma'am.
If you have kidney disease, would that affect kidney?
If you were to get this, it can, because it's going to alter how your kidneys function. So a lot of times when people have kidney disease, they're already having issues with filtering and processing. So retaining even more water can cause bigger issues. So you do have to be careful if you have kidney problems. They'll monitor this guy as well.
Yeah, I was like,
You know this one? He's like, he's my buddy. I know that guy. Yeah, so this one is one that's monitored a lot, whether you've got blood pressure problems, kidney problems, glaucoma problems, that scenario. So raises blood volume, which will cause higher blood pressure. It also constricts blood vessels, which can cause higher blood pressure. Now the effects, the reason why we produce this is if we get stressed out and we have an injury, you don't want to bleed out before you can go get help. So you will see a spike in ADH if you are in the sympathetic division. Again, this is one of the reasons why stress can cause all these compounded problems with blood pressure. If it causes this guy to get released more, that just makes everything a little bit worse. So it is helpful to help prevent blood loss in case of the injuries or problems that way. But in a normal, healthy person, it should stay relatively low. It's just going to be there to help make sure we pee enough and retain enough water. You don't want to pee so much that you go dehydrated. You don't want to pee not enough because then you get overhydrated. Hyposecretion, not enough, you pee too much. You end up with diabetes insipidus. So this is where we're going to learn that the word diabetes is often misused because most people go, oh, I got diabetes. And everyone's like, sugar problems. The word diabetes means pees too much. Okay, so it's actually not related to sugar directly. Now, there's different types of diabetes. Diabetes insipidus You urinate, but your sugars are fine. You just pee all the time. And when you pee all the time, you're peeing just normal urine. That's what insipidus means, without taste. When you have diabetes mellitus, which is linked to insulin and high sugar levels, when you pee, you have a lot of sugar in your urine. So diabetes insipidus, no sugar, no taste. So it tastes like urine. Diabetes mellitus with the insulin, with the sugar problem, your urine would taste sweet. And unfortunately, before we had computers, that's how you had to test for it. There was a swish and spit.
Oh, sick.
I know, sucked to be people back in the day. It's like,
What?
just let them die. I don't want to taste it. Okay? But there is a difference. Now, fortunately, today, again, we have computers that pick up the amounts of sugars you have in your urine so you don't have to taste it. And if you've got a sensitive nose, you can smell the sugars in the urine. So a lot of times you get that fruity floral smell if people are not processing their sugars properly. Because we're sweating it out and peeing it out and all that kind of fun stuff. So just saying diabetes isn't always a sugar problem. And sugar problems happen even without, too much growth hormone, as we saw yesterday, can cause a diabetic coma because it can cause too much sugar in the system. We call it diabetic coma, even though it's not any kind of diabetes, it's just too much sugars. Yeah.
So does that change the way your pee is? Because some people say your pee is lighter or darker. It means a lot of things.
Yeah, so, we'll get to that chapter. It'll be exciting. No, sugar's colorless. So you can have clear looking pee and still be full of sugar. Okay. Now with diabetes insipidus, you would be peeing so frequently, it would be more clear because you don't have time for the yellow to build up. So we'll talk about what causes pee to turn yellow. When we get to the blood chapter, oh, look at that. It was like a weird, really? Blood? Okay, but really yellow urine either means it's been in there a while. So when you wake up in the morning, it's usually the most yellow it's going to be because it's been sitting in your bladder however long you've been sleeping, 6 hours, 8 hours. Oh, bless you if you get 8 hours in, right? That's nice. If you pee every 30 minutes, it's going to be on the clear side because you're flushing it before it can build up. So the color of your urine, shades of yellow are all completely normal. It just indicates how much you're peeing. Other colors, which we'll learn about when we get to the urinary system, if it goes green or goes brown or goes anything else, it's not good for you.
So I know it's kind of weird, but like I see them where like the sometimes says bubbly. What does that mean?
Stop being so damn frothy. Again, it'll depend. Now, if you pee especially frequently, or if you have like high protein diet, you'll have a lot of acidic urine. So if you have more protein, you're on keto, you'll be acidic. So if there's something in the toilet water, like a cleaner, it's going to react with the acid. Just like if you pour bleach into it, it's going to have a chemical reaction. So that could be some of it. You do release carbon dioxide in your urine. So if you've just exercised, you're more likely to be more bubbly because you have excess carbon dioxide, that kind of scenario. Or the stream just hit just right and made bubbles. You force, relax. Now, if the froth stays a while and the toilet's clean, seek medical attention. That's a little weird. You guys are already excited about pee. Woo! Remember this excitement when we get there and you're like, it'll be mid-April. You'll already be that way because it's mid-April. So increase urine output. Symptoms of not making enough ADH, peeing way too much, obviously, other than the peeing symptoms. You're going to have increased thirst because you're peeing out all your fluids. You're going to be dehydrated because you're peeing out all your fluids. You'll have edema. Your body, bless its heart, smart but stupid. If we start dropping fluid volumes in our bloodstream, our body panics and absorbs. So this is something you can actually see when people are really severely dehydrated, they'll swell. And they'll have a little bit of edema because their body tissues are trying to hold on to water. Unfortunately, that can cause their circulatory system to collapse, can send you into circulatory shock. So that could be problematic. You get headaches. Headaches are your neurons not getting enough water. So they're dehydrated. And then disorientation. Again, if those neurons are depleted enough to have headaches, they're also depleted enough not firing properly, so you get disorientation problems that way. Oxytocin, oxytocin, however you want to say it, OT, or the drug for Pitocin. So this little one, again, first identified on the girl side of things. its target is your pregnant uterus to get that kid out of you. Okay, this is why if you induce labor, they usually give you Pitocin to make you walk. Evil. Here's some oxytocin. Walk around, make your own. Okay, so you have those issues. It's also going to target your mammary glands. That's your big one right there. So during labor, this is one of the three unholy trinity of labor. So you can't go and hit true labor until oxytocin gets pretty high. And again, this is why they use it to help induce, to get you to the point that you'll kick the kid out. Now, more importantly, after you give birth, you tend to have to feed your offspring. So it's going to help with the letdown reflex or ejection reflex, let your milk drop. Okay, so if you have barnyard animals, anybody in the country, barnyard animals? So if you raise pigs or cows or anything like that, you know it's time for birthing when the milk shows up. So 24 hours before the pig will give birth, they'll get what's called the milk line because the milk drops. Same thing with dogs and cats. About 24 hours before they have their babies, they'll start ripping their hair out and their milk will appear. So that's when you know, make sure they have the box to squat in, that kind of scenario. So anytime milk shows up, babies are going to be there within 24 hours so they can be fed as soon as they pop out and get clean. Now in humans, you don't always get a milk line. A woman's not going to be like, dude, I'm Dolly Parton. I must be giving birth today. Sometimes there's a lag because this helps with that whole labor and delivery thing. So sometimes the milk might come in after delivery. So the day after you have your kid, you wake up and you're Dolly Parton, bless you. And then you have to deal with that. Now the release of oxytocin can be again, triggered by the high amounts that we get during labor. We can also trigger the release of this to outside sources. So nursing, the more you nurse your kid, the more it stimulates your nipple. That sends a signal up to your brain to make more oxytocin, so you make more milk to feed your kid. So any kind of nipple stimulation can cause oxytocin release. And unfortunately, if you are a very well-trained milker, so you've had 5 kids and you milk your old, you lactated, I don't know what you call lactating. Call them milkers. I'm sure there's a nice thing to call them. I don't care. Okay. The scary ones to me are the militant lactates that are like forced boob feed in public and they give you the stare down, like do something about it. And you're like, I feel awkward with that. Geez. But it's one of those things that if you did breastfeed and you did it for quite a while or you did it multiple kids, you may be blessed with a very sensitive release of oxytocin. Some women, they can hear a crying baby and the next day they're ready to milk again. So you walk in the malls, hear a kid cry, you have to lactate the next day. You're like, damn it, they came back. And so unfortunately, if you train yourself well, you'll always be able to produce milk on command. Disturbing, isn't it? They don't tell you that when they're like, you should breastfeed. You're like, you know what? No. I don't influence that. I wanted my kids to have good nutrients. Formula, you know what's in it. Breast milk, who the hell knows? Whatever you're eating. I've seen some people like, you shouldn't breastfeed. Your kids are going to be so messed up. My neighbor's kids are that way. They're like, it's the quietest baby ever. It's like, because you smoke pot. That kid is high the whole time. You can find traces of pot in breast milk 7 days after one joint. So if you smoke at all while you are lactating, your kid is high. So that poor kid, he needs to be in special ed. He's not all there.
When you take pre-workout, is it kind of like the same effect?
What's in your pre-workout?
I don't know. I mean, that's because
I just randomly take crap. I don't know
I
why.
only did it once when I was breastfeeding, and I couldn't sleep. Like I was shaky, like I couldn't sleep all night, and I couldn't breastfeed my baby because it said it was bad. I don't remember what it had. It was bread, so.
Something. Then you question, why should I put this in my? You actually, if you breastfeed, you have to have very strict diet. You're not supposed to take caffeine. You're not supposed to smoke. You're not supposed to drink. And unfortunately, you'll have those people like, oh, I got drunk last night, so I pumped and dumped. It's like, do you have a hangover? Then it's still in your breast milk. So it'll linger for days sometimes, depending on what you take. So nothing fun for you. You can't even eat too much corn. If you eat too much corn, it'll turn your kid yellow because of the beta carotene that's coming through the system. So you really have to watch what you're doing whenever you breastfeed and stay on your vitamins so they don't suck the skeleton right out of your body. That's the other side effect. You can lose your teeth if you breastfeed because your body will get calcium any way it can. And if you don't have it in your diet, it's going to pull it from your body. So a lot of women will have problems with their gums, with their teeth after breastfeeding, muscle weakness, skeletal weakness, or you can give them formula. It's made for children. Because you buy the human formula, right? Not the kitten formula. Works great. Okay? But anyway, if you want to be a milker, you'll always be prepared to be a milker. This is also secreted by the fetus as well as the uterus. This is one of the things that babies are usually born when they're ready to be born, because the baby makes oxytocin, your uterus makes it, your brain makes it, everybody says, get out, okay? And that's why they make you walk to induce labor. Because the more you walk, the more weight you put on the cervix of the uterus, that triggers more release of oxytocin. So that's why they tell you walk during your last month of pregnancy. And you're like, maybe it just doesn't want to come out, okay? Now, to a lesser extent, this is the orgasm hormone. Yeah,
I was like, isn't this associated with like pleasure? This.
Yeah. Which is why women, again, are all screwed up. Okay, so some women experience orgasms when they breastfeed. And I've heard it like, that's why I breastfeed, for the orgasm. It's like, that has got to be some kind of messed up something, because I don't want to have an orgasm associated with my children. That's a little on my creepy scale. You know, some people may enjoy, but breastfeeding should not be that fun. But again, you will have this hormone produced whenever you have an orgasm. And why? It's to cause our uterine contractions, because the purpose of the female orgasm is to help get her pregnant. I know, sad but true. So might as well make it feel good to get pregnant versus this sucks to get pregnant. But it's going to cause uterine contractions. When you look at trying to get pregnant, what is one of the biggest problems or difficulties with getting a woman pregnant after sex?
Say that again.
So what is one of the biggest problems that you have to overcome to get a woman pregnant after sex? What makes it harder for you to have a pregnancy versus a cow or a dog or a horse?
Diet? I don't know.
Think of humans versus dogs and cats and cows and stuff. What's a really big, obvious difference between us and them?
Probably the amount of months.
You don't stay attached. You stand
No. Just normal differences. How can you tell you from a cat and dog on the
Body hair? I don't know.
Just tell us.
You're like, just tell us the difference. We don't know. Opens up a whole nother
Give
problem
us a
for
hint.
some
Give us
people,
a
doesn't
hint.
it?
Give us a hint.
Why are our muscles different? Why are our ossicoxid different?
Because we're primates.
We stand on two legs.
Okay.
Okay? Well, you gotta say loud enough for me. Dogs and cats and everything like that are four-legged. So when they're done dropping off the kids at the uterus, they stay in. What happens if a woman was to stand up after sex?
Oh, okay. Gravity.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Gravity. It falls out. And if the sperm is on the floor, it can't get you pregnant, right? No, that's true, right? No one's like, oh, sorry. My babies. No. It's funny, but it's true, right? If you're a woman and you try to get pregnant, one of the first things your doctors will tell you to do is tilt your hips. Lay in bed, tilt up. Why? Because when you tilt up, everything has to go towards the uterus. You stand up, everything goes towards the floor. Okay? So the theory is, if we can get that sperm to where it needs to go, you're going to do better. So if you're a uterus, that's right, I'm going to draw a uterus. Don't worry, it's an adorable uterus. Look, you can give it her ovaries. Anybody else think it looks like the cooties head from the game? Do kids still play cooties? Where you build the little ants? Okay, it was a fun game back in the day. It's like a preschool game. All right, look at that. I gave her a vagina too. She's a full working female. So if he drops off sperm, that sperm's got to get up here so it can get up here so it can impregnate, right?
Yes.
So what happens with oxytocin, it causes uterine contractions. And when you have uterine contractions, it goes sucks it up. So that's what the purpose of the orgasm is to help draw in the sperm, because the vagina is a very hostile environment. If you don't believe me, watch all the commercials about the vagina and the problems it has, right? It's a war zone. It's very, very acidic, kills them on the spot. Uterus is nice sanctuary. It's basic. It will help with the survival of them. So if the sperm can get here, they're going to do so much better. They won't die instantly a burning, horrible death. So we want them to get here. So if you have a orgasm, you increases the chance of the sperm getting to the uterus, which increases your chance to fertilize. So a lot of times, again, doctors will tell you need to have an orgasm to get pregnant. You're like, yeah, like I'm not trying. But if you don't have that orgasm, they'll tell you just lay on a pillow, tilt your hips up, don't get up for the first 10 to 15 minutes. Give them time to get to where they need to go. Because if you stand up immediately, wasted effort. Okay? So that's supposedly supposed to help you with getting those guys to where they need to go. Oxytocin is also your love hormone, your bonding hormone. So whenever you look at somebody after oxytocin exposure, you tend to bond to them, which is why they tell you to breastfeed your kid, because when they're breastfeeding, you're releasing oxytocin, and instead of looking at this little creature that woke you up at 2 o'clock in the morning so they could eat you, and you're like, oh, you are adorable, I like you. Or after you've given birth, they hand you your kid immediately to bond with them. That's because you have so much oxytocin, you might like your kid and maybe forget that they just hurt as they plowed through your exit ports. Okay? Because those things are horrible. And again, you bond to somebody who gives you an orgasm. It's like, why do you like the guy? I don't know. Maybe there's some oxytocin involved in it. Okay? And we always release more oxytocin when we see those dilated pupils, the sympathetic vision. Again, that's why anime is so popular, even though the storylines are not very good.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And the acidity in the vagina is that just from like the flow of urine going through that certain area, or what?
Those are two different holes.
Okay. You're right.
There's a lot of people that we're not cats and dogs. We don't pee out of the vagina. So you don't ever pee out a child. Anytime someone says that, you should slap them. And so you can't have children. You shouldn't have children because you don't even know where to put them. But it's naturally acidic to keep things from growing because you don't want stuff growing up in there.
Right. Okay.
Because nasty. There's actually a constant battle between yeast and bacteria. So if you become too basic, the yeast go crazy and then you get a yeast infection. You become too acidic, the yeast die, the bacteria go crazy, you get a bacterial infection. So you get bacteriosis in the vagina or you get yeastides in the vagina. You gotta have just right pH, which is hostile. Okay, it's about, I'm trying to remember, I wanna say it's a 4. Okay, stomach acid is 3.5. It's very vicious. So, wrong pH, either bacteria or the yeast go nuts, and you got one of the other problems. So, it's to kill things on contact. Very nostalgic. Okay. Guys, less hostile. So it's also going to give the guys their orgasm. So they don't have mammary glands to have milk drop with. So smooth muscles of the vas deferens, it's going to target the prostate gland. So we release seminal fluid when you have an oxytocin rush. So it's going to cause ejaculation for the male and allowing for the male to have his orgasm. So both sexes, it's orgasm. Girls, there's also orgasm and milk production and confusion and all that kind of stuff. Oh, look at that. It's the pituitary gland and all the bits and pieces it's affecting in life. So here's our anterior lobe. So again, ACTH going to the adrenal cortex, thyroid stimulating hormone going to the thyroid, growth hormone going to your body, prolactin, go milk, follicle stimulating hormone, testes or ovaries, so you can make gametes, and in the case of the female, hormones, LH going to the testes and ovaries, so you can make hormones, in the case of female. This little random melanocyte by itself right there. So all those for this side. Posterior lobe, again, being produced by the hypothalamus and then released by the posterior lobe. ADH, so you don't pee as much. And oxytocin, so again, this one is bringing out the orgasm of both of them as well as milk drop. Questions about all the fun activities of the pituitary. But then I might have changed your dating life forever. Don't have kids. Oh, thyroid gland. So your thyroid gland is going to be in the lower portion of your throat, so right below the larynx. You may be vaguely aware of where it's located because in A&P1 you have things like the thyrohyoid and the stylothyroid and all those neck muscles. So some of them will ride by the thyroid gland. So this little guy here. Same thing, just without all the blood vessels in the way. So it's often described as a butterfly-shaped. Again, some anatomists are very fluffy. They're like, that looks like a pretty butterfly. But basically, you're going to have 2 lobes with an isthmus in between 2 joints. You can easily palpitate this on either side, and this is usually how it's tested for at most doctor's offices. When you go in, they'll feel the base of your neck. They're not looking for a place to hold if you don't pay, they're looking for the thyroid. So if it's larger, then it's an indication that there could be a problem, that they might need to do blood testing to further check out. So thyroid hormones. Our first one we're going to make are the ones associated with metabolism. So this is where most people, what they know of the thyroid, that's what they think of is like, oh, my thyroid has problems. That's why I gain weight. They're like, really? I thought it was the 5 cheeseburgers for lunch, but you're right, it's your thyroid. But it can influence, it can make you fat, it can make you skinny, depending on your metabolic hormones that they release. And those hormones are thyroxine T4 or triiothyroxine T3. So you can see why they get whittled down to little names, because those are big ones. I do like T3 because it begins with the word 3 and ends with the word 9. Like it multiplied itself in that long sentence of word. So it's kind of weird that way. Now with these hormones, you have to have iodine in order to make them. And this is why we have iodized salt, in case you've ever wondered. Iodine is not something normally found in most people's diets. You naturally get iodine from seafood. So if you eat a lot of shrimp, you eat a lot of fish from the ocean, your iodine's going to be okay. So if you live in the coastal regions of the world. So there's a lot of places that don't have coasts, and there's a lot of people that don't eat seafood. So if you don't eat seafood on a regular basis and oceanic fish on a regular basis, you're probably going to have a really hard time getting iodine in your diet. So this used to be a nationwide problem. People would have goiters. Goiters are when your thyroid swells because it's trying to make hormones, but it can't do it properly. And of course, when it swells, one is visible, you can see it, you can't wear turtlenecks. But the worst part about that swelling is it can swell out, but it can also swell in. And since it's kind of wrapped around your trachea, if it swells in, it can crush your trachea and cause suffocation. And it can cause problems with swallowing food and so forth. So goiters can be a major health problem other than the function of the thyroid. So back in the day, again, when the government used to try to save your life instead of whatever they're doing today, the scientists were like, we need iodine to make thyroid hormones so we have proper hormones and we don't have all the goiter issues that we're having. How can we get somebody to take iodine? How can we put it into everybody's diet? So they're like, what is something everybody eats? Salt. So let's put iodine in the salt. It doesn't change the salt taste. It still tastes salty. And they both are elements. They're both inorganic. So it's rocks on rocks. So if you put salt on your food, you're going to get iodine. We're actually seeing a resurgence in iodine deficiencies in people because either one, they're paranoid about salt and they don't want to put it because, oh my gosh, salt causes high blood pressure. It's like, it doesn't cause it. It just increases blood volumes, which can lead, but if you pee enough, you're going to balance out and you'll be okay. So some of them don't get enough salt because they're paranoid about blood pressure. And then there are those people that, oh no, I only eat pink Himalayan salt squatted on by Dalai Lamas out in the, I don't know, fancy salt. Okay? Is it pink salt, brown salt, black salt, something salt? I don't know. But that doesn't have iodine. So good news, fancy salt and goiters, you're winning. So we are seeing problems with more iodine issues in people's diets because either they're overly concerned about health issues or they're too damn fancy. So if you don't put salt on your food that's iodized salt, then you do have to get a supplement so you can get it properly. Or eat a lot of seafood, which is expensive. I'd rather just put salt on food. That's pretty cheap stuff. Right?
What about the people that are allergic to iodine?
Wow, I was not aware that there were people on the earth allergic to iodine. I learn stuff all the time. Look at that.
Well, like, I used to work in the BSA kitchen, and they would just say allergies, iodine, so we couldn't salt any of the food.
So part of me wants to say, were they really allergic to it, or they just didn't need it in the food, so it was easier to say it's allergic versus don't put it in? Kind of like the difference between I don't like eggs, don't put it in, and they accidentally like, who cares, he just doesn't like them, versus it would kill me. So there could be that, it's just easier to say you're allergic. Or based on what they were being given medically, if they were giving them iodine, they don't want to try to account for how much iodine is in the salt that is on the eggs that's going to interfere with the medication I'm giving them in the room. So they may not be truly allergic, they may just want to make sure iodine wasn't put in because it could counteract a medication or their treatment plans. if you are really, that would be a rarity. Be like the very few people that may be allergic to water. It's kind of hard to be allergic to something you're made. But I would imagine it also would have to deal with the form that you get it. If you get it as a part of your meal, it's already kind of bound to organic materials, so it's processed differently than if it's just free-formed iodine. That would be something to research. Feel free. I've never heard of anybody. If they were truly allergic and they could never have iodine, they would never be able to make thyroid hormones. So it would look like a marshmallow. I imagine there's more interplay than just an allergy issue. But then again, I am not a medical doctor. Do not seek me for medical attention. If you die because you follow what I say, it's not my problem. Not medical. All right. So, target of T4, T3, body cells. And they're your metabolic hormones. They're going to regulate your metabolism and the energy balance. How much oxygen are you using? How much ATP are you producing? And of course, more oxygen, more ATP, more energy your cells are going to have so they can get stuff done. And of course, when we break apart ATP to fuel the activities of the cells, it does cause heat. So this allows for heat production. So if you have a whole lot of iodine, a whole lot of thyroid hormones, you'd be sweaty and raise up your body temperature. So it regulates growth and development because you can't grow anything, whether it's your skeleton or your brain, without the energy to fuel the cells to produce new bone or fuel the cells to grow that axon or what have you. It also helps with the growth and development of the nervous tissue. So if you don't have enough thyroid hormones early on, you'll actually have mental deficiencies. So you have to have it. It's crucial before the age of 5 because that's when your brain stops growing. So you want to make sure that you have the right amounts, especially in those wee little guys, so they can have normal brain activity. So this one, again, known for its calorogenic effects, it burns energy. And this is what most people know about these guys. It's like, oh, helps me lose weight, burns energy. Hypersecretion too much, you get a condition called Graves' disease. With Graves' disease, this is an autoimmune disorder. So in this case, the body makes antibodies to fight off, but that antibody looks a lot like thyroid stimulating hormone. And your thyroid, when it sees this antibody, they're like, oh, TSH, make hormones. And the body's like, no, this was an antibody. What you doing? But again, thyroid, bless its heart, smart and stupid. So anytime it sees this antibody, it thinks it's being told by the pituitary gland to make more thyroid hormones. So you end up with excessive amounts of thyroid hormone production. This is found in 7 to 10 times more often in females than in males. This is why when females have any kind of issue, even just a normal doctor's checkup, they'll usually check the thyroid every single time because females are more likely to develop thyroid problems than males are. It's just one of our genetic weaknesses. I know, shocking, sucks to be female. So antibodies, again, mimic the TSH, causing an enlarged thyroid. It can get to be 2 to 3 times larger. So this is why they always feel for your thyroid because it's very easy to palpitate close to the surface. So if it's bigger, you're going to feel that it's bigger. And oftentimes you're going to see if it's bigger. So you'll have swelling at the base of the neck, so forth. And of course, that swelling is an indicator that we're amping up production and releasing a whole lot of those thyroid hormones. So some of our symptoms, you get exophthalmosis. Isn't that a fun big word? X means exit, go pop out. OPHTH means eyes. Make sure eyes pop out. Okay, not all the way. It's not like they're gonna dangle, but you'll look like a chihuahua. Okay? There's a lot of commercials right now, right? We've all heard the ones like thyroid eye disease, especially that commercial where she wears glasses the whole time. She doesn't want her picture taken, and she just keeps taking off glasses, and there's glasses underneath it. And then there's usually little things like, you want to see what she looked like before the drugs, and you're like, maybe, but not enough to get a computer. So the exophthalmosis, they just usually call it thyroid eye disease because that's so much easier to say than saying that on the commercial. And would be like, what? So thyroid eye disease is a result of Graves' disease. So you can manage for the thyroid issues, but if your eyes are already buggy, it's going to be hard to pull them back in. So you do have to have medication. So all the connective tissue around your eye gets edema. And we saw with our cow eye dissection, there's a lot of connective tissue. Okay? There's muscle and a lot of packing peanuts. So you can imagine if all that connective tissue around that eye was swollen, it's going to push the eye forward, push the eye out. So you're going to have those problems. You also have metabolic and heart rate will increase. So you'll have fast resting heart rate, which could lead to heart problems, high blood pressure, arrhythmias, those kind of issues. You're going to have weight loss and you're going to have sweating. So you're going to be a sweaty, buggy-eyed, skinny, high blood pressure person. Okay? So at least you fit in your pants. But other than that, it's not a good side effect. Treatment, cut it off. Right? If the thyroid isn't there, it can't cause problems anymore. Ultimate example. If it's in the early stages and they don't want to remove the thyroid gland or it hasn't gotten too bad, too severe, you can take radioactive iodine. Now, radioactive iodine, it's not like, oh my gosh, it's radioactive, I'm going to grow another head kind of thing. With radioactive iodine, the iodine just breaks apart easy. So what happens is the body takes in this radioactive iodine as iodine, it gets built into the thyroid hormone, and then it breaks. And if you have a broken hormone, it can't do any of this. So you still have high production of thyroid hormones. It's just most of them are broken. So the body can't respond to those hormones that are being produced. So you're not going to have the body results. You'll still have a swollen thyroid and you'll still have overproduction. You're just producing defective hormones. So that can help to mitigate some of the problems if you're not ready or it's not warranted yet or your insurance won't pay for it, your thyroid to be removed. Hyposecretion, not enough. In pre-puberty, you get cretinism. So in case you've ever wondered, how come the word cretin means stupid? It's an actual condition. So if you use that term, you're using science words. Look at that. Even Monsters, Inc. use that word, right? Cretin. If you're going to insult me, you're going to do it properly, right? Right? Besides. So cretinism, this is the brain doesn't form properly, the body doesn't form properly, and of course, if the brain doesn't form properly, you're gonna have a lot of mental delays. They can be physical control body delays, they can be sensory delays, you can have blindness, deafness issues that way, you can have mental delays. So they're never gonna be able to do the normal for mental activity. You'll get dwarfism because even though the human growth hormone says grow, the skeleton doesn't have energy to grow. So they'd be like, why don't you grow? I was like, I don't know, I'm tired. Okay, so it's just not going to get any bigger. You'll have delayed sexual development, so you won't hit puberty till 16, 17, 18 at the earliest. And of course, we're not just going to let the kids sit there. If we diagnose it early enough, they're going to give them oral thyroid hormones. So hopefully they don't have the problems with growth. They don't have the problems with reaching sexual maturity. They don't have the mental problems. So they try to diagnose this as early as they can. And it's something, again, it's one of the reasons why when you go to the pediatrician, they're always worried about the size of your kid. Okay, are they reaching their growth points? Are they where they need to be in height and weight? Because if they're under every time, that's a first clue that maybe there's something wrong there, and they'll do blood testing to see. Because, of course, it's nothing wrong being short, but you definitely want to make sure your brain works properly. Yes, ma'am?
Does it affect the liver, and is that why they become yellow, or?
Yes and no. So it's not a direct liver issue, but if you don't have energy to do the normal stuff, your liver doesn't have the energy to do all the filtering and processing that it's supposed to do. So the liver, if it had the right, it's like you. You may not be lazy, you may just be tired because you didn't sleep last night. That doesn't mean you're always lazy and you're defective. It just means you need a good night's sleep. So the liver needs energy to do its job, and it just doesn't have the energy to do its job.
Gotcha.
So by providing them the energy, the liver will work okay after that.
Okay.
As an adult, because your body has already matured and your brain has already matured and you probably already like making sexual things already, so you don't have all those problems you had with pre-puberty issues. Now you're just tired. Okay, so you get myxedemia. So you'll have swelling of the facial tissue. So that kind of moon-shaped swollen face versus your eyes popping, your whole face is just kind of swollen. You get a very slow heart rate, very low body temperature. Because your body temperature is so low, it's really hard to regulate your body temperature. You get cold very, very easily. You're sensitive to cold because you can't warm yourself up. You're going to have dry skin and dry hair because you don't have enough energy to make oil to help your skin and hair out. Muscle weakness, general lethargy, and weight gain. Because if you're too tired to do anything, you're too tired to exercise, you're too tired to do activities, you're going to gain weight very quickly. Okay? Again, to help with that, we're going to give you thyroid hormones. So instead of giving you TSH or instead of giving you something to trigger the release of THH, we're just going to straight to the problem and give you the thyroid hormones and help fix that. And of course, when you're put on thyroid hormones, it's something that's monitored for the rest of your life because naturally you produce less as you age, which is why it's easier to gain weight in your 40s than in your 20s. So you could be doing the same exercise activity and still gain weight in your 40s. Why? Because you make less thyroid hormones, so you naturally run slower as you get older. So if you're on thyroid medications, they're going to test you, and if your thyroid continues to make less, then they're going to have to continue to up your dose to balance you. Not only that, they have to make sure you're at the right level for your body. If they give you too much, yes, you lose weight, but then you get the whole issues that you would have with hypersecretion. If they give you too little, then you're going to gain weight and you're going to have problems with the not enough secretion. So they have to constantly check your thyroid levels to make sure you're getting just the right amount for you and your body, and not too much and not too little. So that's usually people's biggest problem with thyroids when they do have a problem. It's like, gosh, I was on this pill and I lost lots of weight, had to buy new clothes. I got on a different pill, gained a lot of weight, had to buy new clothes. It's a lot of flux to get at the right level. So you can guess who has problems. I don't know this kid, so it's okay to make fun of him. But yeah, he's not all there. And it's a bad picture, but he is yellow. Okay, so he's got to have some issues there. So he needs to give, some of those thyroid medications. There's this lady. She's never going to be able to wear a turtleneck. Okay, so she has a goiter. You can actually see the thyroid outline on her. So if she has access to medical care, which I'm guessing from the size of that goiter, she hasn't up until this point, because most of the time in the developed world, you're not going to let it get that big. You're going to step in and do something about it. So hopefully she's able to, get something so she can get that removed before it causes more problems. Now, calcitonin is a thyroid hormone that is not controlled by the pituitary gland. So it doesn't matter what the pituitary gland, thyroid stimulating hormone does not cause an issue with calcitonin. The other term, the drug term, is thyrocalcitonin. And as the name suggests, it deals with calcium. This one should look vaguely familiar because briefly talked about it in the skeletal system. This is one of the two players that maintains the proper level of calcium so we can build strong skeletons but still have calcium to have muscle contraction, neural activity, all that kind of fun stuff calcium does for us. So homeostasis of blood calcium and phosphate levels. So it's going to lower calcium in the blood. So it lowers calcium in the blood several ways. One, it stops osteoclasts from breaking down bones, and it accelerates osteoblasts with building bones. So if you have calcitonin as high, you're going to have a thicker, stronger skeleton. So you want this to be high if you just broke your bone and you're having to repair or anything like that. Other things that it's going to do to help make sure we don't have too much calcium in the blood, it will tell you to urinate it out. So people who have frequent kidney stones are often tested to see if their calcitonin is too high, because it can lead to kidney stones because you urinate all that calcium, and it stops you from absorbing it from the digestive system. So again, it doesn't matter what you eat. If you're taking a calcium supplement and calcitonin is your dominant hormone, you won't absorb any of that calcium. So that's a lot of your late night health food junkie people won't tell you is you can take a vitamin. If your body says no, it's not going to help you. Right? So this one's going to prevent us from getting too much calcium. The job of this guy is to help reduce bone loss because, again, you don't want to lose bone and sacrifice your skeleton for some other reason. So this can happen during starvation because we're not bringing calcium in. We don't want to accidentally lose too much of it. So we're going to store as much as we can. Late in pregnancy, when baby and mom are both fighting for calcium because we're both making sure our skeletons are healthy. And this is one of the reasons why you take those prenatal vitamins is because there's no way to eat enough vitamins for you and your kid. So you make sure you have enough calcium so your skeleton is happy and your baby skeleton is happy. Because if you don't get those pre-pregnancy hormones or continue to take those, or not hormones, vitamins and continue to take them if you're lactating, you can lose stuff like your teeth. Bless you again. All right. Next week, parathyroid hormone. I know, exciting. Speaking of exciting, let's go have a quiz about eyes and ears. I know, I said the cute word.
So that'll be right when we get into that.
Yep. Straight up 10:30.